the brush, the most wonderful thing for your doodle. First, I wanted to talk about what do we want or expect from a brush? What are the capabilities and what are the results we want from the brush? And what is the brush for? What can we use it for? What is it good for? And what not? So first, let's talk about what do we want from a brush. We want it to be gentle on the doodle. We want it to be effective, comfortable to hold, and comfortable to be on the skin, to use on the skin. We want it to be lightweight because we don't want to do a workout with a heavy brush. We want it to work fast, to be durable, non-toxic, environmentally friendly, fair trade, and local. Now, optimally, the brush has all of these. Not so optimally, we need to mix and match whatever are our priorities to make sure that we get the most out of the brush. So for me, being gentle on the doodle and being effective, comfortable to hold, durable, non-toxic, environmentally friendly, those are super important. So I'm not giving up from those needs. I'm looking for a brush which will fulfill those needs. Optimally, it's fair trade and local as well, but oftentimes you can have hard times finding that. So we're gonna cover which are these brushes here, and you can find the one which will fulfill all of those needs. Actually, these two on the images here fulfill all of those needs. What is the brush for? We can gently open up tangles and mess with the brush, gently removing burrs, sticky burrs like plant bars and stuff. It's gonna penetrate the hair through different hair lengths, which is a key situation because I see it more often than not that doodle moms and dads put a crazy amount of effort in brushing their doodle, but they're not going deep enough, either because of the brush, because it has so short pins, or it's because the way they are using it. We want the brush to penetrate the hair through a different coat thickness and to keep the doggy's skin safe. These two brushes will do all of that. Let's take a look. Features of a great brush. The number of pins on a given surface. Less is more. So if you take a look at the previous two images, let me just run back there, then you're going to see that both brushes have significant distance between the pins. That's key. Most of the brushes, especially the ones you can find in an average store or even online by the Chris Christensen brand, which is on the image on the right side, is even the coral one. It has the same shape, same size, same everything, except for the number of the pins on a given surface. And that will be a key, though it looks much prettier. You need the ugly guy because this has less pins and it's going to be way more comfortable for your doodle and you. So approximately we are talking about 4 or 5 millimeter distance all around each pin. You can measure it or you can just go to Amazon and get this brush and it's going to be the exact same distance. We're going to need a material of the pins which are soft and firm and hopefully stainless steel. That will last for a good while. In case you're going with a brush like something like on the left, but the pins are from bamboo, for example. While that looks awesome and it will work on doggies with less hair and with shorter puppy coats, whenever the coat grows longer or whenever the doggy has a thicker coat, it's not going to go and work that effectively. So it's not going to open up tangles, and it's not going to find mats, and it's not going to work on the mats that well like a slicker brush. So I highly recommend to get a brush with metal pins. Thickness of the pins. We want something what is nice and soft but is still durable and firm enough so it won't bend all over the place and you needing to adjust the thing all of the time. So we want, again, something on the thicker side but not as thick as a bamboo pin, like similar to the one on the left side. Movement of the pins. We want the pins to wiggle around. That's why I really suggest the brush for opening up tangles and mats, because the pins move. On a comb, the pins won't move, and whatever sensation, whatever pulling we're gonna create by moving it on the doggy's coat, all the sensation will end up on the skin, and the doggy will wiggle quite a lot. The more wiggles you're gonna experience, the more tangles and mats the comb will get into. So the movements of the pins is critical to keep the doggy comfortable and open up the tangles and mats gently. Rounded tips. Now it can happen either the way on the right side, like you barely see anything and the pins are fairly rounded, or a little bit more serious, like on the left side. On the left, the brush on the left has rounded pins, rounded a little ball on the pins, which make the whole thing much more rounded than on the right, the brush on the right. And that way it's going to be way more comfortable for even puppies. I'm not saying the other one is painful at all. I'm just saying for puppies, while both of you learn how to brush your doggy, I recommend the brush on the left more because it's going to be easier to use. You can also use this brush as a recreational brush. I like to use this phrase because doggies who really like butt rubs will probably like the brush on the left more. So you can go wild with the rubs and you can go hard on their skin in case they like that. Keep that in mind. No balls on the tip of the pins for detangling. Now, if you take a look at the left brush, it has those balls I was talking about, and on the right, it does not. Little balls are great for recreational type of brushing, getting used to the whole thing when the coat does not have much tangles, and let alone zero mats. So the balls will do great on a clean and fairly tangle-free coat. However, whenever the doggy has tangles or mats in there, the more the worst. Then all those little balls will get stuck in the mat and will cause sensation and pulling on the doggy's skin, which they will react to. So we will end up with a wiggle of a doggy, and we have no idea why they do it. So that's the reason. Whenever there is situation going on the doggy, or you see the symptoms first and you don't know what's going on underneath, then you're going to need the big guns and the brush on the right. So yes, I detailed that. Oh, and the no balls on the tip. I mean, the balls on the tip will be great on tricky areas like nipples and legs on puppies. They tend to be a little bit more sensitive for the legs around there. So you can use the, whenever they do not have tangles and mats again, use the brush with balls on the tip to keep the puppies comfortable and adults comfortable on sensitive areas like that. Length of the pins. Now we arrive to a critical part of the brush. The length of the pins. We really need long pins. And the average brush, which you can find in shops, except for the ones on the left, because even human brushes come with pretty long, almost like 3/4 of an inch long pins in the type, which is similar to the one on the left. We need around an inch long pins to deal with the doggies in case we are talking about long-term brushing. And of course we are. So even for puppies, I highly recommend to get both of the brushes, because if you are planning to get one, then go with the right one. Because as their coat grows longer, especially when winter is coming and you keep the coat longer, and many doodle moms and dads do that, we need to be able to get to the skin safely and gently to be able to deal with the most lower layer or by the skin. Because in case, and I see this all the time and it's so sad, when we are using the brush with shorter pins and we are not going deep enough to the skin, we're going to work on it perfectly and the coat is going to be absolutely tangle and match free 80% of the length. But that 20% by the skin will be so very matted that the doggy will need a short shave. And there is no other way to go around that, because it's just so matted and there is no comfortable way to get a good grip between the skin and the mat. So the length of the pins is critical to be able to work on 100% of the hair length, especially by the skin. The angle of the pins, again, another critical part of this. Now this little brush on the right will arrive almost like 90 degree angles on each pin, wherever the pin is banded. The thing is, you need to open that brush up. So it's going to have 150 degrees on all little pins. We need to straighten the pins out to make it the most gentle and most comfortable for all. The bend is around 1/3 or 1/4 of the length from the tip. It's important to know in case you're trying to find another brush, not this one. So keep that in mind, that the little angle around the bend and the little corner on the pin needs to be 150 degrees, and chances are you have to open up that area on your brush, either with your fingers or with the dogbill plier. There's going to be a separate section about this, so how you can do it and learn to do it. It absolutely does worth the time at the beginning. Let's talk about the head of the brush. What are we looking for in the head of the brush? We need a size which is no longer than 4 inch and no longer than 3 inch wide. I basically say that the medium size, the one you're going to get the link to, is the ideal one. I don't like the larger one because that's going to grab more hair at a time, and it's going to be even harder to use on puppies since it almost covers their whole head or whole body. It's not fun and especially not safe on puppies. So if you get a medium size, you're going to be still able to get to the tricky areas even on a puppy, and it's going to last even for adulthood as well. Let's see. So you can avoid smaller or bigger ones for body brushing. You can use a small one for like puppies and tricky to reach areas. You can even use a teeny tiny brush for the armpit area in case your doggy tends to be very sensitive for that, and in case it's harder to reach. We're going to talk about which one. You can use larger brushes in case you have a ginormous doggy, and you want to invest in multiple brushes, but I still would go with small medium size of brush like you saw on the image here on the right side. And that's going to be much, much more comfortable for both of you and more effective as well. Whenever we use large brushes, we work on a bigger surface, so we kind of jeopardize the comfort for being more effective. So as a result, we're not going to be too much more effective or effective at all. The shape of the head. We need a curved head. That will help us to work in one line at a time, keeping the doggy even more comfortable for brushing. Flat heads are not too ideal because they're gonna work on all of the brush surface at the same time. And whenever we are dealing with a coat which has tangles, sometimes even mats, we need something that will work in line. So if we go back to slides, then you're going to see that this brush has a curved head, and that's going to help you huge to work in one line and open up tangles and mats tiny by tiny, so your doggy will get the least sensation possible, and they're going to cooperate willingly. We need a sponge cushion to make it soft and protect the skin. In the middle of this brush here, on the gray surface, there is a sponge, a sort of pillow in the between the pins and the head of the brush, and that will make it comfortable for the doggy even when you use a little bit more pressure on their coat, on their skin than you want to. The rubber pin cushion for flexible pin movement, the gray area there where the pins are, that's going to help you huge to keep the pins moving around and bending away and opening up tangles and mats freely. Not recommended brushes, especially not recommended for heavy coats. Brushes with straight pins. They're not going to open up tangles and mats in a way we want them to. They're not going to be effective. So I'm not recommending those to work on tricky areas. You can use them for puppies with less hair, but it's just not recommended for heavier and longer coats. Brushes with bending heads. So the type we're gonna see on my video when I'm gonna talk about them is whenever they make the head from a metal sheet and they bend a little bit, that's not going to be ideal, because we really need to feel where we are working on the doggy. So while doing the strokes, you're gonna on a brush, we were talking about the Chris Christensen one, is you're gonna feel whether you are working on the skin or just the hair, or whether you found tangles and mess. Whenever the brush head bends away, you're not gonna feel where you're working at, whether you're using enough pressure or not enough pressure, or whether you are by the skin or not. So I'm not recommending those at all. Brushes with balls on the pins. I'm recommending them for recreational brushing, for puppies for training, but not for tangle and mat removal, because the balls will get stuck in the tangles and mats, and it's going to be uncomfortable for the doggy, and so will for you. Brushes with less than 4 millimeter distance between the pins. Most of the brushes jump or fall into this category. We don't want that. Doodles have so much hair. The more pins we are using, the less space between the pins and the hair will be, and the more uncomfortable the doggy will be, and we're gonna see it on the early discomfort signs. Sometimes even late discomfort signs in case the doggy is matted. So brushes with less than 4 millimeter distance between the pins are not ideal, especially not ideal for curly, wavy, or heavy coated doggies. Brushes with shorter pins than the hair thickness. Now we're going to learn about the poke test, when you gently poke your doggy and see how thick their coat is to determine how long pins you're going to need. Hint, you're going to need the 1 inch long the Chris Christensen brush, because for summer coats that's going to be perfect. For winter coats that's going to be the one you're going to need. So why to buy 2 brushes when you're going to need only one? You invest in one and you're going to be good to go, just as a shortcut. Features of the handle. It needs to fit in your hand comfortably. You can maintain a gentle yet sturdy, non-slippery grip for a longer period of time. You can make it fit work on your dog, so it's the right size overall. So basically you can work on tricky areas like armpits, inner thighs and stuff. Handle upgrade. You're gonna see me put on a non-slip tennis grip on my brush handle. The reason for that is I have ginormous hands and I really want a solid, steady grip and comfortable one. No slippery, no sweaty palms. So I upgraded my brush with a tennis grip, and it's helping me huge to keep my brush still and steady, the Doodle comfortable, and my hands comfortable, so I can work with them less, yet still get the results.